Excellent Start is a horse whose starts aren't always so excellent, but he's more of a finisher. Finishing is what Excellent Start does. We'll find out how he's doing after his run in the Pimlico Special. His trainer, Wade Sanderson, about to join us here on Charlestown Races Today, presented by our friends at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races and powered by the Racing Biz, the racingbiz.com. Charlestown Races Today, part of the Midlantic Racing Today family of podcasts. My name is Frank Vespi. I'm going to be talking with Paul Espinosa, Charlestown track announcer, down the road a piece. But up first, Ted Black going to visit with trainer Wade Sanderson. We'll hear about Excellent Start. We'll hear about some other horses in his barn, a little bit about his background. Good conversation coming up with Ted Black and Wade Sanderson. So without further ado, let's do it.
Hey, Wade, how you doing?
Good, Ted. How about yourself?
Good. All right. So, not the best circumstances, unfortunately, with no racing this weekend. And I saw you had one in, I think, Friday, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Are they keeping the track open for training or not at all?
We're on the training track.
You're on the training track. Okay.
So
the main track's not open.
It's split in half.
Really? Okay. But the main track is not accessible for anybody.
Nope, main track is closed.
Okay. No, sorry to hear that. And you mentioned a couple of things. Charlestown, like Shenandoah Downs, one of the bull rings. Shenandoah Downs was even tighter. Never saw any races there, but saw the charts there. And they used to write the 3.5 furlong races, and I remember guys complaining that they were under the impression some trainers brought in quarter horses or mixed quarter horse breeds, to run those 3.5 furlong races.
Yes.
So did you ever hear of any of those rumors when you were there on the backside, just carving your teeth in the game,
no,
Wade?
I wasn't very old when they ran the races there.
Right. Okay.
I started over there in the mid '80s.
Okay.
My father there.
Right. Yeah, I remember when I started with the Spirit of Jefferson in 1990, Shenandoah Downs had been closed for about 10 or 12 years, but it was still open as a training center.
Yes.
And they kept it open for a while, actually, as a training center. Till maybe mid 90s, I think it was still a training center for a few more years after I started with the Spirit. Yeah. But as you know, I mean, Charlestown still like a speed track, Wade. But what's it like having a couple of your best horses, including Xcellent Start, who just ran the Pimlico Special, and Juba's Parade is your good mare. They both like to come from out of it. So, what's it like having horses that kind of succeed at Charlestown, when they're there, although they're kind of contradictory to the mold of what typically is successful at Charlestown?
It's hard to have a horse that closed in that short stretch.
Right.
Especially one that doesn't get run until late, like Excellent Start.
Mm-hmm.
So, he does a lot better at Laurel with the long stretch. Right. But he's won several races at Charlestown. The mile and eighth at Charlestown, I think, is his best distance instead of the 7 furlongs.
Yeah, and then at Laurel, he won an allowance race earlier in the meet, I remember.
Yes.
And back then, the track was playing a lot deeper, and, closers like him had a realistic chance of getting there. The other day in the Pimlico Special, as might be expected, on weeks when they have the graded stakes, the track's going to be a little tighter, and not, and be conducive to horses with speed, not your type of horse. The other day, but what did you think of his effort? And I mentioned remember you mentioned he threw a shoe, unfortunately, at the start too. So
took a little bad stumble there at the start and pulled a shoe, but I'm happy with him. I mean, he gives me everything he can every race. He tries hard. So, I thought he ran a great race. It was a tough field.
Mm-hmm.
He gives everything.
He did. I mean, I would not be surprised to see, Navajo Warrior on the noms for the Charlestown Classic later this year, in the grade 2. I don't know if that will be his primary spot, but I would imagine he'll be among the noms. He looks like one of Safi's horses that's working his way into that mix. He's got obviously White Barrio and Skippy Longstocking, who could come in at any time, but they've both won grade ones, obviously, and it looks like he might.
Nice horses.
Yeah, and Navajo Warrior looks like he might be in the mix, for what's up next for him. You talked about the Confucius Say as a possibility for him, Wade. I know 7 furlongs, not ideal, but it'll give you a chance to run against West Virginia breds on his home track. Possibility?
We'll nominate, see, what's there. I know Laurel's got another stake in the end of June, another Mon 8th.
Okay.
So we'll keep that in mind, and we'll go from there. It's still early to pick out what's next for him, but we're always looking.
Right. What was it like the other day being in the paddock with the West Virginia bred in a grade 3 stakes, especially the Pimlico Special, which has just a tremendous amount of history and lore to it. What was it like just being in the paddock and being with your horse in there with in a race like that, Wade?
That was an awesome experience. I will say it's a packed paddock though. so it's nice to be there with the big names of the game. So it was a memorable experience for me.
No, it's good. That's good. And the horse ran his race. Yeah, too bad he threw a shoe at the start, but he ran a respectable race in that group there.
Yeah.
And in that race, looking back on it, went about 2 seconds faster than the Preakness did. So I mean, that was a pretty good performance by the top two. So
and that
for
the first part of the race went a lot slower for us, which
right.
If they went 22, I think we went almost 24. So there
was exactly. Yeah. There was no pace in the race. So yeah, if you weren't sitting 1, 2, 3, you weren't winning. Whereas in the Preakness, a lot more tempo there, and so if you'd have seen those fractions in the Pimlico Special, it might have been a nice setup for Xcellent Start there.
Yes.
And now you got a good mare. Talk about her, and I imagine the Original Gold is going to be on the table for her at the end of the month. Wade?
Yeah, our next stop for her. So nominated yesterday. We'll train up to it. Doesn't look like we're going to get any works in before the race with the track being closed and stuff, but we did get one a week before, so she'll be all right.
How is she compared to Xcellent Start? I mean, both of them like to do their best running from off the pace. How about their mannerisms, their training habits, and little behavioral quirks around the barn every day?
They're both good horses to work around. She's a little quirky training. She likes to go up and stand and watch and do her thing. And when she gets done training, she likes to stop and look around and survey her domain.
Really? Okay. That's good.
So she is very particular to what she likes to do.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Okay. And then how about it's kind of the same thing. I mean, when you have a horse like that, you need the pace to set up a little bit for be a little quick for her and help set her up. What's it like watching the tote board and seeing the fractions go up? That kind of dictates your chances a little bit. I mean, that's.
Well, we're going to put the blinkers back on her for her next race. Try to get her a little more focus. Keep them. We had them on there before. She was really up on the pace and everything, but I thought she was a little too quick early.
Okay, sure. Sure.
But when we're catching these fast tracks and they're not coming back to you, you've got to make a few changes, and so hopefully with the blinkers back on, we can we'll be a little closer for our late run.
Right. Okay. And then obviously, you've been fortunate to hook up with Regulator Racing.
Yes.
And they've supported you pretty well and helped your career quite a bit. How did that all begin, Wade? And who is Regulator Racing, and How'd that all come to fruition?
They were a friend of mine was training for him, Vernon Greaves, and
Mm-hmm.
he was moving to Florida and kind of semi-retiring, and he hooked me up with Scott and Angela, and Backless. So he was instrumental in getting me with them.
Okay. What's it like, having that support, either whether it's going to the claiming box to get one or maybe going to a sale to get one, what's it like knowing, you have an owner that has confidence in your ability to get him to the races and get him to the winner's circle?
You can't ask for better owners. They, they were, they respect my decision on what I do and what I want, what I'm looking for. We look at a lot of horses,
Mm-hmm.
few a week. And I'm very picky about what I want, and he respects that, so it's nice to have that in an owner.
Down the road, eager to get into the claiming game again, or maybe go to the sales, or what's
actually took one Saturday, or for him.
You did? Okay.
Omar Comin on Saturday at Charles.
Yeah. Okay. I've seen him. Nice. I think he's Maryland bred and usually likes to come from way out of it. And he's been in a couple of the 3-turn races up there too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What was it about? What was it about him that you liked, and what's been the response since you've gotten him, Wade?
I like where he runs at his races. They go, you've pretty much got the same horses that you run against.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have a feel for who you're running for and what you're running against. So, he's competitive in there. He tries hard. So, he's a nice horse to work around. We're looking probably about 3 more weeks to get him back in the box and see how he runs again.
Okay. What do you do in the meantime? I mean, I don't know if they've given any indication when the track will be open, but what's it like really having to go to Plan B and having to use the training track to try to keep horses fit and keep them from being too on edge, so to speak. Yeah. What's it like having to adjust, and how grateful are you going to be when the track finally reopens and you can get back out there and get back to normal?
We give a little trank over there on the little track to keep them relaxed because it gets busy.
Mm-hmm.
So we give a little trank to keep them relaxed, and so they're not in everybody's way and they're being good. It's a little hard some days, but it's not too bad. We'll work with it and get them there and get them trained and get them home safely.
Okay, good to hear. About 2-year-olds, Wade, and you and the owners interested in getting the babies rolling, or are you just confined to kind of staying with the older horses? What's been the talk there? Is any insight on maybe getting some decent 2-year-olds, whether they're West Virginia breds or not West Virginia breds? But obviously now there's going to be a lot more money involved in the West Virginia bred program after the recent law was passed. Is that something that you're interested in, or the owner's interested in, or what's the outlook looking forward to, just in regards to 2-year-olds, Wade?
Well, we haven't really talked too much about the 2-year-olds.
Okay.
We've looked at some 3-year-olds that are running. We try to find stuff that's running.
Mm-hmm.
To keep moving, But if we find some nice 2-year-old, he'll look at it. He's open to it.
Right.
But we like horses that are running.
Right.
Scott and Angela, they enjoy coming to the races, so they like to come out and see their horses.
No, I understood. I mean, the 2-year-old is a game of patience, and unfortunately, a lot of times a game of heartache, because you might have a horse that shows promise at 2, and then maybe something minor like buck shins or something keeps him away, and then he comes back mid 3-year-old year, late 3-year-old year. So, it can be kind of trying. So I understand why trainers and owners like the claiming game or like staying with the older horses, because every 3 or 4 weeks that horse is going to be on the track somewhere.
And you know what you have. So
Right.
you know what you have with the older horses. The young horses, you just don't know what you got.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
we like that part. We like to know what we got and what we can run and what we can do.
And you mentioned, you grew up kind of carving your teeth on the backside at Shenandoah Downs. Any one or two people really influenced you quite a bit back then, Wade? And any one or two aspects of what they taught you or approached you about the game that still resonate today with how you approach training horses?
Well, I worked for my father for many years over there and always told me to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, good work ethic from my father.
Okay. And then right now, how many horses in the barn? I know you got the two basically stakes bound horses in Juba's Parade and Excellent Start, but how many horses overall in the barn? And of course, you just added Omar Comin, but
We got
how
7.
many?
But
Okay.
we don't want to get no more than 10.
Okay.
We like to be a small stable where we keep hands on.
Right.
So 10's about where we like to be. So
Okay.
we're always looking for more horses.
Sure. Yeah, I mean it's and you got to look for horses where the races are going to fill too, and they're going to come back in the book. If the race doesn't fill, it'll come back, fairly soon, So like you mentioned,
I like horses that if the race don't fill here, we could go downtown. We
Right.
could go Laurel, maybe Colonial soon. Where we can run somewhere else, and if something here doesn't work out. So that's another thing we look at.
Right. Okay. No, that's good. I imagine like Omar Comin being Maryland bred, he's got the open allowances at Charlestown, and maybe there'll be something for him at Laurel that he could fit in, where he could get a Maryland bred bonus of some sort. But anyway, so I think that's it for me, Wade. Certainly appreciate you coming on at late notice and
Fight me.
being able to talk about the horses. I've enjoyed talking to you over the years. When you've got some quality runners. Excellent Start. I've gotten him in the Racing Biz and in the Spirit a few times. Juba's Parade, certainly has appeared a few times. So maybe get in the winner's circle soon with Omar Comin.
Hopefully.
All right, Wade. Hey, I think we can sign off now, and I'll let Frank know we're done recording. How about that?
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Wade. Thanks for
Coming up next on Charlestown Races Today, powered by the Racing Biz, Charlestown track announcer Paul Espinosa joins us. Happy to be joined as we are at this time of the podcast, each edition here on Charlestown Races Today by Charlestown track announcer Paul Espinosa. And Paul, we're not ideal circumstances here. You got a little bit of a water issue, no racing this weekend at Charlestown. Give us a lowdown.
Yeah, so definitely a bummer. No two ways about that. Found out on Tuesday afternoon that there was a spot on the track where we were seeing some water kind of bubbling up. Essentially, I think Beverly Hillbillies and some bubble and brood. But yeah, not the kind that unfortunately we could make a lot of money off of. But yeah, so there was. I don't have a ton of details in terms of the actual like nuts and bolts of like where the line runs, what it exactly it services. But there was a spot there kind of between the 3/8 pole and the half-mile pole that was a spot of concern when the track superintendent, Doug Bowling, along with some contractors got out there today to get a look at it. They felt pretty confident that we were going to be able to kind of keep it, where we wanted, that it didn't get too far gone. Just one of those things, though, we're going to pretty much the only thing that you can do at this point after taking as much water as it did was to let it dry as best as possible. Now, just outside my window to my right, those skies just opened up. So we're going to have to kind of battle that as well. Mother Nature this week, it looks like it's going to be kind of a soggy forecast, but they do have that area of the track covered up. And so that's got to be the first course of action, is just basically trying to get that as dry as possible. And then from there, kind of reassess, just make sure that it's kind of coming together how they hoped and thought that it would. And so the goal as of right now is to have training open, have the track open for training on Monday. Again, there's never any training on Sunday here at the track. So, that's not a statement on, on when they think it could be ready. But definitely just one of those things where racing was not going to be feasible for this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And so, again, that's the tentative schedule. We're hoping that, again, we'll be able to resume racing a week from Thursday, and that we'll be able to have this behind us. But, again, we'll just kind of have to see how it responds to the drying that it's able to do, and then the moisture that it's going to now be taking on with some rain. So fingers crossed, and hopefully that this is just a week blip, and maybe some folks will get to enjoy an unexpected week off for Memorial Day here at Charlestown.
That's it. You guys just wanted to give everybody a little holiday. We understand.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's always something in racing. It seems like you don't realize how many things can go wrong until some of the things that can go wrong. You're like, man, I hadn't even thought of that.
Bingo. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things we were talking a little bit before the show, just about how, it was a tough winter for us weather-wise. We definitely, between the cold and then that snowstorm that kind of lingered forever because the cold that came right afterwards. And it finally felt like we were kind of starting to make up some ground so that we weren't going to have to actually make up as many days. We had made up the races. We just weren't making up the days. And then something like this just kind of comes out of nowhere. And so, yeah, it's I tell you, it's the greatest game played outdoors, and you have to deal with all the stuff that comes with that.
With being outdoors. So. Yeah, for sure. All right, just curious. Let's talk Triple Crown for a minute. Give me your take on the Preakness. What was your sense?
I tell you what, if anybody really hasn't gotten the gist by now, ignore any opinions I have on the Triple Crown this year, because I am 0 for 2. Didn't think Golden Tempo was fast enough, and I didn't think that Napoleon Solo could have gotten a mile and 3/16 at the back of a trailer. So again, just dead wrong. Selfishly, I was thinking, and I know this was even going to be a stretch because he's probably more of a New York, Woody Stevens, Alan Jerkins type of horse. But I was kind of hoping that, like, man, you know what? Napoleon Solo, he could be a good Robert Hilton horse, 2 turns, 7 furlongs. I felt like that would be within his scope. I'd say he's run himself out of the Hilton, unfortunately. Again, not saying no, Chad Summers, if you're watching, I apologize. I was wrong. But yeah, I just think that, again, I kind of felt like, not just did I have some distance questions with him, but with the way that the race was supposed to set up with just speed, I just didn't think that anybody was going to be able to stick around till the end of that race that was anywhere close to that pace, and was just dead wrong. Kudos to him and all the connections of Napoleon Solo. And again, yeah, that's the theme of the Triple Crown so far, is old Paul's 0 for 2.
I feel your pain. I had a good run picking the Kentucky Derby like 25 years ago, but not too much recently. But as I have told everyone, I was touting Napoleon Solo everywhere I could tout. So, but it was, like you say, it was a race where you had to have distance questions about him. I mean, he had run like he had distance questions. His breeding says kind of middle distance. You had to have those questions. You mentioned the pace. You had to have questions about how the pace was going to set up. But I felt like everybody there there was nobody you could confidently say, this horse is the horse in this spot. And to me, he was the one horse who had shown genuine brilliance. His Champagne was brilliant. And that's what I latched on to. And, next race, I'm sure I will confidently tell you something, and we'll never hear the horse again. So, but
well, no, that's kudos to you, and that is a terrific point, because that is, that Champagne was real. Again, that's the crazy fractions. That was another thing I was kind of getting stuck on, was that it looked like the track was really fast that day. I think he went 3/4 like 107 and change.
Yeah,
so
almost broke the track record for 3/4.
Exactly, crazy. So but. When you looked around at who else was in that race, nobody had that. How good is your good? Is good is obviously, now we've established, is really good. And I will still say that in general, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by this 3-year-old crop. This could be one that kind of feels like maybe there will be some late bloomers. Maybe we get an Arrogate, maybe we get a Tisnow or something that kind of comes down the line. Some of these horses, maybe like a Paladin, whenever he comes back and gets back to the track. But that being said, he was the best horse on the day for sure, and so kudos again to you and the connections of Napoleon Solo.
More to them than me, but I'll take
equally. So
yeah.
We'll call it 1-1A.
Yeah, I I was telling somebody I was trying to shoot video of the race. I was there, but I dropped so many F-bombs telling Paco to keep the horse going that the video not that useful. So
did you do any look arounds while you were filming doing the Paco look
right,
around? So,
right. I don't snap. I don't whip myself, with the program. I don't do any of those things, but I have been known to drop an F-bomb. So
okay, hey. Yep, to each their own. I will unfortunately just know that during any race I'm calling, I will not be able to join you in that, but maybe maybe off camera. We'll see.
Right. I think my least favorite rooting style is the snap guys. Mm-hmm. Like, just stop with the snapping. Yeah. I don't know if you have a feeling on that, but
no real strong. I'm kind of a to each their own guy. I will say that, since kind of taking this role, I know I don't really get to watch a lot of races down like amongst other people. I'm normally going to be, if it's a big race, I'm going to be up here in the booth because we're probably going to be racing pretty soon afterwards. So, right. I guess I'm a little bit out of the game when it comes to the route, but I will just remember next time if I'm watching a race around you, I'll make sure that I have my hands folded and just to make sure
in prayer. Yes,
exactly. Yes.
What is that like for you guys? Actually, that's sort of interesting. I hadn't really thought about it, but you're right. Like when the Preakness goes off, a couple minutes later, Charlestown Race 1 goes off. What's it like there at Charlestown on those days? And what's it like for you where you're sort of got to be getting your game face on when the rest of the racing world is looking at something else?
Yeah, so twofold, I'll say. I say that luckily it ends up kind of taking some pressure off where it's like, it's not like we have normally big races that are going to be following, those Triple Crown events. But, you look out there and you see we have a pretty good crowd that comes out just to watch the races. Sure. We're streaming it basically, in-house on as if it is, they have all the screens that would normally be Charlestown are on, whether, it's the Derby, the Preakness, or the Belmont. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a nice atmosphere to kind of look out and see. But yeah, it's basically like right around 7:00, that those races that's what the Derby and the Preakness, they both went off right around 7:00. And then, you kind of see the horse come back into the winner's circle. And then all of a sudden the screen changes to Charlestown horses circling in the paddock. And so then, you flip the switch. And so, you hope that kind of carries some of the momentum that you just experienced. People watch these big races and then, hey, here in about 15 more minutes, you'll get to actually see the real thing in person. And so, yeah, it's cool. It's one of those things where I guess it feels like it does take some of the pressure off, knowing that, like, hey, it's going to be a pretty chill night. It's not not going to be any sort of like big. It'd be one thing to like follow it with like the Charlestown Classic card, where like you're up at this high level that's really hard to maintain for that long. Mm-hmm. But it's a interesting little twist that we have where we're still yet to begin whenever things are winding down at those big races.
Yeah, the perils of night racing. All right, so it's a couple of weeks since we did this, and you had mentioned this off air, and I think it's a good thing to catch up on. Coin Collector, a couple of weeks ago, potentially a star is born.
I'd say so. Ryan's run, we talked about whether or not that was the drama, was whether or not he was going to get to draw in. And so Jeff Runco and team, they have Cindy McKee to thank because my Max, I think, had come up with a little bit of a foot issue that morning. And those were kind of two horses that could potentially trigger him being able to get in. And it was the Dwayne Johnson trainee and the Cindy McKee trainee. And the other 8 we're pretty much going to stay in there until maybe 6:00, it sounded like. And so, nothing that was going to happen was against any rule. I will let the public debate whether or not they felt like that should have gotten to that point. But again, that's not for me to say. Like I said, no rules were broken. But as just for me, as somebody that really the only person on the backstretch that I have any sort of inkling lean toward is my grandfather. I just want to see good horses safely make it around the track. And if they happen to be a full field as well, that's also preferred. And so I was very happy to get to see a really nice showdown between Ryan's run and the Big Lep. I think that they're both really good horses, but it does appear that Ryan's run might just be a little bit different. He looks like he's one that if you hear kind of the buzz around the track, he's like Coastal Mission type good for Runco. And I think they have those type of expectations for him. So it'll be fun to kind of follow him as he progresses along the line. And I think that now we can safely say he won't have to worry about earnings anytime soon.
No, unless he misses another year and then comes back and tries to get in a stake. But
Bingo.
hopefully that will not be the case. The Runco barn's been running out a lot of short price favorites last couple of weekends. But when you mentioned, before we get there, you mentioned Coastal Mission. That's saying something. That's a graded stakes winner. If people are putting those horses in the same sentence, that's quite a statement.
It is. And I will say that again, it is hearsay. I have not heard this from either of the sources, but the hearsay is that Arnaldo Bocachica has said that he believes that he is the best horse he's ever ridden for Jeff, which basically means that puts him above Coastal Mission, that puts him above Muad'Dib. I don't think he obviously didn't ride Researcher back in the day, so can't say that. But again, it is. There are certain things that you see here at the track where, again, I definitely try not to get too prisoner of the moment but there are definitely horses that even I can see look different. And, the kind of first signal for me was when he's working 59-3, like you just don't see many sub-minute 5 furlong works here at Charlestown. And so that's what he fired right before this race. And then, he was obviously drawn outside the Big Lep, which was very beneficial for him, in my opinion, because he looks like he has a pretty big striding horse. Mm-hmm. And, when he basically just went up alongside this horse who had the recency edge, who was really fast and I think pretty good, and he just basically took over in hand, it was like, okay, yeah, I get what the hype is about. I think he is legit. It'll be a question too to see now, if Jeff has clearly shown that he is not afraid to take his good horses away from Charlestown and try them, down in Maryland, up in New York. Sure. And so we'll get to see. I hope that we do at some point get to test him and see where he kind of fits in and if he can live up to that lofty hype. Because, like you said, Coastal Mission, that's no light comparison. That's a serious racehorse. Yeah. Also, glad to see that he is back on the work tab, by the way. So hopeful that we get to see Coastal Mission again at some point as well, and maybe he'll have a little something to say about it. But it definitely seems like the Runco barn, they have firmly their focus is on quality over quantity now, and they have quality in spades, it does appear.
No, you're right. One of those Orange Canyon 3-year-old just won again last weekend. Had to work for it a little bit, but was 2-3 to 5, something like that.
Yeah, and was in between horses, and I definitely thought at the top of the stretch, because I believe it was God's Pride that had kind of circled up to the outside. It looked like she was the winner. In my head, when you're calling a race, obviously you're trying to call what you're seeing. You're not trying to call what you think is going to happen. But it looked in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, Orange Canyon, she's cooked, and so she called on her class. And I don't know, again, if the heavy work schedule here recently, the heavy race schedule for God's Pride might have caught up to her in that last furlong or so. But Orange Canyon, she's very talented, showed obviously some precociousness at 2. And this is now one of a couple of offspring by Vekoma that Jeff Runco has had in his barn that have looked really, really good. And obviously the Vekomas, they kind of took the world by storm last year. I definitely think that they'll have their distance limitations, but for here at Charlestown, we don't run a lot of 3-turn races. So I think that they'll be fine at most of the configurations that we have for them here. But again, she definitely showed that she had some, didn't need to have everything go her way to still come out on top. I thought it was a very, very nice gutsy effort.
You're mentioning the distance thing. I would imagine, although I don't know if you have any insights, I'd imagine Runco will keep Brian's run up there to stretch him out before he goes. Assuming things go the way they look like they might, he might end up in Maryland after that. But usually I think he likes to get him to 2 turns before he goes elsewhere.
I tend to agree, and I think that again we have that a lot of trainers here. They do love to run through their West Virginia bred conditions, and then at that point they can kind of go from there. They also here have the West Virginia bred clause that allows those horses to then go through their open non-2 conditions and non-3 and non-4. I think that I'm with you though. I think he would probably want to see him. I guess he's obviously eligible for a non-winners of 3 West Virginia bred allowance. Good luck getting that to go if you know that he's going to be breaking from the gate outside. He's a fire-breathing dragon right now. So, but I would think that whenever that time comes where there's a 6.5 or a 7, I would think that would be. That'd be probably where we see him next. And then you start to kind of think and you start to work backwards from a race like the Hilton. And he ran Zip Start in the Oaks last year. He's not afraid to run his best horses, just lead them over right in their backyard, a big race like that, a $500,000 race. I could see where we might not see him leave here unless a race made sense down at Laurel, and maybe he does want to kind of test him, whether it's in a stakes race or some sort of allowance race. It'd be interesting to see, but again, it's fun to dream on a horse like that.
Yeah, it's nice to have options for sure. We mentioned Orange Canyon, another horse that you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, come back with another win. Now I think 11 for 18, Juba with a twist.
Yep, and definitely showed that his return was no fluke. And again, kind of another workman-like effort, running down a nice hard-knocking horse in Ozone. That the previous effort where he ran down Jungle Beast, I think Jungle Beast was back in the entries this week, so we might have gotten a little bit more of a line as to how much of that race might have been a fluke for him, or if he's getting good right now at this time. But I feel like Juba with the twist certainly has shown that he's back on his game. It's been interesting to see. Antonio Lopez seems like he really gets along with him well. He had been ridden for so long by Gustavo La Rosa, and then now I feel like Antonio, he's just I've always felt like he is one of the more underrated off the pace jockeys here at Charlestown, where he seems to be able to time up that closing kick of his mounts really, really well. And so I think that they seem to get along swimmingly. And so right now, again, without knowing kind of any updates, I don't have any updates on Teaching the Release. We'll see Coastal Mission whenever he gets back on the track. But again, the older West Virginia bred division certainly has gotten a little bit more intriguing with the return of Juba with the twist, and certainly happy to see him back in the winner's circle again.
Yeah, for sure. Another one back at it, Spot a Free One, a West Virginia Breeders' Classics winner from the last year. Dead heats for the win, right? 10 clear of everybody else.
Yeah, that was and again another dead heat with a Stephen Murdoch trainee. So again, that's been his horses have been running really, really well. But Spot a Free One kind of had that little bit of a clunker. Jeff had sent out a couple of horses without much luck this winter, it seemed like, down at Maryland. And again, for whatever reason, I don't know if the horses, they weren't breaking all that well. It just for whatever reason it didn't work out. And I think Spot a Free One kind of fell into that category, and so he was happy to be back with his friends back here at old Chucktown. And again, he was really good. He kind of had a quasi rivalry with Pascaline last year, nice Arnaud Delacour trainee, and so he would pretty much risen and shown that he was the undisputed best 3-year-old that we had last year. And so it was nice to get him back on the beam. And again, even though he had to share the winner's circle, it was nice to see him back. And I think this will be a race that he'll be able to build off of. And I could kind of see him, I'm not sure, again, distance-wise, what his kind of limit is, but he seems like he'd be a really solid onion juice type horse. Now that No Change is retired, that two-turn specialty here at Charlestown, that'll be interesting to see. I feel like he'd be kind of right there near the top of the horses that would be pointing for a race like that, as opposed to the Sam Huff going 1.1 miles.
Okay. Anybody else from this past weekend who caught your eye that folks ought to keep an eye out for?
I think we kind of touched on most of them. I'm trying to think that the Juba with the Twist race is really the one that kind of sticks out to me in terms of him being able to put that all together again and show that he's come back just fine. And I haven't seen speed figure wise where that race comes back, but I would have no reason to think that it wouldn't be, again, high 90s Equibase territory. And, it's definitely coming off of a pretty good week. It's a bummer to have this kind of let down, this lull, and kind of lose that momentum. But we'll hope that it's just a minor setback, and we'll be right back at it. Just a brief respite here around the Memorial Day holiday.
Yeah, and actually, when we come back next week, the feature is going to be the original gold for fillies and mares, and we're finally getting to the first longer stakes races. That one's going 7/8, and then 2 weeks after that, the Confucius Say for the boys also going 7/8. So we got those things to look forward to coming up.
Yeah, from a race calling standpoint, it's nice. The 4.5 furlong races, I just kind of feel like in terms of a tempo, it's like more like auctioneer. It's like really, really fast. You're trying to kind of squeeze in as much action as you can, kind of capture the frenetic energy that the 4.5 furlong dash kind of brings. Whereas the two-turn races here, even though they're obviously still sprints at any other track, you feel like you're able to kind of tell a little bit more of a story. It's more of a couple act play that kind of is able to play out, and again around the two turns, and so kind of get to take your time a little bit more. And it's definitely going to be exciting to see the older fillies and mares. That's a division that I think is definitely very wide open and kind of ripe for the picking right now. So it'll be nice to see if somebody's able to kind of step up and really cement themselves as the leader of the pack there. Again, it's just it's pretty wide open, and as open as I can remember it, because obviously there was that stretch where it went from like Moonlit Song to Late Night Powwow to Star of Night from Runco. Sorry, I had to test the recall there. It seemed like there was always one horse. Obviously, recently it was Overnight Powwow that kind of felt like, okay, this is the queen of the West Virginia breds. I don't really know who sits upon the throne at the moment, so I'll be anxious to find out with everybody else when hopefully we get back to racing action.
Yeah, and we had we had Hessica win 2 Cavadas in a row, and then we had. And then last year, Petty Perfect. So, it'll be fun. It's fun to see the older horses, and it's fun to see them stretching out. It's interesting what you say about the 4.5 versus because the two-turn races really present differently than 6 and 7 furlong races do at other tracks. I mean, it feels more like a route race because of the extra turn.
I agree. It's again, definitely the strategy of that extra turn does add to it, because again, I feel like it's a fairly it's definitely not a novel thought of mine that you can lose ground around one turn, but if you have to lose it around 2, you're asking for trouble unless you are much the best. And so I think that, again, that's kind of been always one of my things when it comes to trip handicapping at Charlestown is, are you able to save ground on at least one of the 2 turns? And so that adds that dynamic. I know for me, I haven't called it a ton of places other than Charlestown, but obviously the first call was out at Del Mar, relatively shorter stretch. Then the next place I called was Churchill Downs, and that's obviously you're very familiar with that stretch. And then Fair Hill last year, which obviously Fair Hill coming up here this year. I'm assuming that Dave Rodman, because Laura will be dark, that he'll be heading up there. But I
didn't know you called it Fair Hill last year.
Yeah, yep. I got the one special day. It was I remember it was the same day college football kicked off because there were a lot of games I was kind of tracking on my phone at the time. But I think that Dave was busy. I think that obviously Laura was still running races.
No, it was Timonium.
Timonium. That's right. Sorry about that. Gotcha.
That's Timonium. Yep.
Okay. But yeah, so just in general, going from short dirt to very long turf, and what you have to do to adjust your tempo, where it's like when they come to the top of the stretch at Charlestown, you've got like 12 to 13 seconds of story to tell. Yep. When they get to the top of the stretch at Fair Hill or Churchill Downs, one of those tracks, you really have to you're like the race hasn't even really started yet almost. So it's that part is definitely interesting and getting to adjust. And when you call so many races at one place under these circumstances, it can be a little tough to rewire your brain. And so it always takes me a couple races to kind of, get used to the tempo and find my flow, if you will. But it's interesting dynamics of race calling, I guess.
Do you like calling at other places?
I definitely, it's nice to change it up. I mean, I will say that I'm probably a little bit more of a creature of habit. Like, there would be people that probably would be happy to have like a weekend off for a change, because we pretty much run, almost every weekend of the year. Sure. Yeah. I'm kind of like, I really enjoy my job. And so I'd probably be fine if I had my druthers just to kind of keep trudging along and calling races. But at the same time, I would obviously be remiss to say, like, when my buddy Travis, he'd reached out, Travis Stone, voice of Churchill, to fill in for him. Yeah, that was obviously a dream. I was going to fill in for him for another week while his brother was getting married, but then that was when Churchill moved their races to Ellis Park, and so I still ended up calling the races at Ellis. And so that was, again, it's obviously not going to ever be the home of the Kentucky Derby, but it's still nice to just kind of get the lay of the land. And so I certainly, if there was ever a time when mostly like a Sunday, when I'm obviously off and we don't run Sundays, I'd always be open to any places that announcer for hire. Definitely wouldn't say no.
Have Mike will travel. Huh?
There you go, bingo.
All right. Well, Paul Espinosa, I think that covers us for this week here on Charlestown Races Today. Appreciate you joining me as always. When we do it again, we'll be able to talk about the original gold and be able to see what we think about that.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, looking forward to it. But thanks as always, Frank, and congrats again on the Napoleon solo tout. So dinner on you next time. So.
That's it. Blind squirrel, meat nut. Happy to pony up for that, because it's really more about the bragging rights than the money. But the money's 100%. Okay too. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely at this point of the show. It's it's all about being able to put that up on the wall, and right up on the mantle.
Finally got a Triple Crown race right again for the first time since the early 2000s. Yeah,
yep.
There we go.
I'll look forward to having that Napoleon solo win picture behind you here before too long. So.
Got to work on that. So
there you go.
All right, good deal. Thanks so much.
See you, Frank.
This has been Charlestown Races Today, powered by the Racing Biz, presented by our friends at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races. Charlestown Races Today, part of the Midlantic Racing Today family of podcasts, available wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to Paul Espinosa. Thanks to Ted Black and Wade Sanderson. But most of all, thanks to you for listening and watching. We appreciate it very much. Please do like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next week right here on Charlestown Races Today. And don't forget, launching tomorrow, Delaware Park today, the kickoff of that. So thanks so much. Have a great week, everybody. I'm Frank Vesby. We'll catch you next time on Charlestown Races Today.